council for November 12th to order at 3 p.m. Jody.
Thank you. As council meetings are streamed live and recorded on YouTube, attendees acknowledge that in accordance with Section 17(2)(g) of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, names, addresses, and other details provided when speaking at a council meeting will be publicly shared. Should you have any questions related to the collection or disclosure of personal information, please contact the Legislative and Advisory Services Division for the Town of High River by sending an email to foip@highriver.ca.
Thank you. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Smith that Council adopt the agenda for the regular Council meeting November 12th as amended to include item 4.5 being amendments to the subdivision and development securities policy.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Previous minutes, approvals. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that an omnibus motion adopts the October 28th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes and the October 28th organizational meeting minutes as presented.
Yeah, my motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried.
Mayor, before we go forward,
No.
I did not see my adjustments on the minutes that we were to make adjustments. I do not see them online.
Can you look into that, Jody?
We can definitely look into it. We thought we had made the adjustments, so
I haven't seen them. I can't find them.
Okay, we'll look into it, Maureen.
And why are they not allowed to speak at the beginning of the meeting and you've moved it to the end?
Well, there's always been two places for public comment, so I'll get into that in a little bit.
Okay, and you are aware of
But Maureen, we have business to take care of, and then we will get into public comments, which is not right now. So I'm just going to ask you to please be patient and allow us to take care of the council meeting, and then we will address whatever comments you would like to make. If you would let Maureen, can you please,
on the Aquatics,
Maureen?
your email, and you told other people as well. That should be also be put on the agenda.
I am going to go through all of that in a few minutes. Once we're done the business of today. We're getting that done first. Then I will get in, thank you. That's council's decision. Then I will get into that, okay? We respected you folks when you came and did your delegation. We didn't interrupt you or anything. We allowed you to say your piece. We will do the exact same thing. I understand that, but we have a council meeting that we are going to take care of first, please. Thank you. So the first piece of business is item 4.1, CVAC recommendation for the basketball tournament.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am here today on behalf of the Community Vitality Committee to present to you the application from Jesus Rock of Ages Ministries for Connecting Culture Through Basketball. This basketball program will be running from November 16th to April 27th from 4 to 8 p.m. on Sundays at the High River Baptist Church. This group will be partnering with FCIS to encourage participants to access support that FCIS offers. The full request for the application was for $8,620. However, the committee unanimously recommends supporting the application for $5,120 to fund the referees and equipment for the program. Does council have any questions?
Thanks, Jocelyn. Is this basketball tournament open to anyone?
Yes.
It is. Okay, and it's taking place where?
At the High River Baptist Church.
Okay. Any questions from council? I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council award $5,120 to support the program Connecting Culture Through Basketball by the Jesus Rock of Ages Ministries through the CVAC program.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I'll give you that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. CVAC, the High River Chronicles, Jocelyn.
So the next application was from the Unity Film Festival for the High River Chronicles. High River Chronicles is a community-driven documentary series consisting of 9 short episodes that highlight the unique history, characters of High River. The project celebrates the town's agriculture roots, indigenous heritage, and local culture by involving residents in both the creation and viewing of the series. The funding requested will cover the cost to facilitate the workshops and involve community members in the filmmaking process, equipment rentals, production and community screening, and the first episode of the series. The CVAC committee unanimously recommends supporting this funding application for the full $4,200. Are there any questions?
Any questions from council? Ask for a motion from Councillor Nychuk that council award $4,200 to the Unity Film Festival to create and facilitate the High River Chronicles Stories of a Prairie Town.
Mr. Mayor, I'll give you that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. CVAC again, Windmill Theatre Players.
So the last application today is from the Windmill Theaters. Windmill Theatre Players is a nonprofit, community-based theater group which has produced and staged 2 main stage shows per year for the last 50 years for High River and surrounding areas. Their final event this year will be a gala, 50 years and still having a ball, at the Highwood Center on December 28th. This will be a public event with dancing, games, a photo booth, and a light supper later in the evening, provided by a local caterer. They will be highlighting past windmill shows and community activities through displays and conversation. All the funds will be going towards paying for the event, so the ticket prices are low. They want to keep their ticket prices at $19.74, which correlates to the year that the group was started. The funding request is to cover partially the rental of the Highwood Center, the DJ, the decorations, and the food. The CVAC committee unanimously recommends supporting the funding application for the full $2,500. Does council have any questions?
See none, I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that council award $2,500 to the Windmill Theatre Players for their 50th anniversary celebration.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I'll give you my motion.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thanks,
Thank
Jocelyn.
you. Thank you.
Risk Management and Insurance Services Agreement. Jody?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The town has received risk management and insurance services from our current service provider for a number of years. As far back as we can tell, it has been at least 20 years, and we have not considered other options for these services in that time. In addition to the complacency of receiving risk management and insurance services from a single provider, administration felt a noticeable shift in the customer service experience that has been provided for the last number of years. This includes a culture shift that has impacted the town in a number of ways, including a shift from a member partnership approach to a third-party customer relationship where we used to feel like a partner and our interactions were collaborative. However, now it feels like we are a customer, which has greatly impacted the entire relationship. We have also seen a delay in response times to our inquiries and change requests. We've seen key policy changes that have been missed or not brought to our attention. and misunderstandings of some of the products that are provided by our current provider, which has resulted in surprises, budgetary impacts, and operational impacts requiring additional time from staff. Recently, there was also a breach of confidentiality when the town's information was shared with others. So we are looking to improve our risk management and insurance service provision. In addition to the concerns above, the town felt it was necessary to hire legal support throughout the post-flood claims for property, auto, mobile equipment, and business interruption to ensure the coverages were maximized. This was after years of administration negotiating extensively to ensure the coverages were accurately reflected in the compensation received for our flood losses. While we haven't taken the opportunity to share the above concerns with the current service provider in a single setting, we have provided feedback regarding our frustrations over the years. With a review of the RFP, while insurance services are outside of the formal RFP process that requires us to follow that process, we did follow the full RFP, which was split into 2 phases. We had 3 initial responses in the first phase. Only 2 of the proponents were successful in moving to phase 2. These are the 2 that are being presented today to council. And due to the nature of insurance, there are several comparisons that can be challenging to consider on a surface level, as policy coverages can impact how the policy will respond to different incidents, events, and situations. So administration has done the best to compare apples to apples. In the responses to the RFP, it is interesting to note that both responses came in with premiums that are lower than the current 2024 costs that were $685,835. As you will see in the comparison table in your agenda package, the premiums for RMA are higher than the other respondents. However, there are additional services that are included in that premium, such as the option to terminate our current separate cyber policy and rely on the cyber protection that is included in the liability coverage through RMA. There is enhanced risk management and legal support provided internally through RMA. Education credits and scholarship opportunities are provided for our staff. There's an active member risk advisory committee, and our current provider used to have this, but it hasn't met in over 5 years. So we are excited to be joining another risk advisory committee. During the process of the RFP, there were several references that were completed, and they were very favorable for our MA, including 2 municipalities that have recently made the same switch we are proposing. During the RFP process, our current provider did not include all information as requested by the deadline, including reference documents and transparency on their fees. While we did point this out to our current provider, the information was still late coming in for our consideration. Comparing the 2, while Alberta Municipalities has been our provider for years, the Genesis Reciprocal Insurance Exchange is a liability reciprocal similar to AB Munis and has been recognized as Canada's oldest reciprocal by the Canadian Association of Insurance Reciprocals. Although RMA provides advocacy for rural counties and municipal districts, they have several urban municipalities participating in their insurance program, including 79 urban municipalities that are towns or larger, and then they do, of course, have 68 rural participants in their insurance program. There are several factors to consider when comparing which service provider to select. There is a pro and con list in your agenda package, which I will allow council to ask question if they have any regarding that comparison. In addition, because this is a significant shift in our service provision for risk management and insurance, RMA has advised they do their best to keep premium increases within 10% for all of their members, whether they are new or long-term members. And if the premiums are exceeding that 10% threshold, they do have means within their board policies to access the reciprocal to offset increases above 10%. What that means for the town of High River is that if there was a significant increase to premiums, it should remain within that 10%, which is what we have also been experiencing through Alberta municipalities. All of this information is what supports administration's recommendation to award the 2025 and 2026 agreement for risk management and insurance services to RMA. If the town is not happy with the shift in moving to RMA, there is a 2-year notice of withdrawal requirement, similar to our current service provider's withdrawal requirement, which essentially means that the shift would be for a 4-year period, so 2025, 2026, 27, and 28. Having said all of that, and with the information in the agenda package, does council have any questions or comments regarding the application process, the RFP review, and the applicants with the recommendation to move to RMA?
Questions from council? It's pretty clear. I think you've done an excellent job of comparing these two and giving us a good recommendation, Jody. Councillor Nychuk.
Sorry, Mayor Snodgrass, I think you covered that off really well. I think it's a heck of a job. You pointed out everything that was kind of on my mind, Jody, so appreciate that very much, especially that last piece on the maximum 10% increase. With insurance companies and moving insurance providers, oftentimes they will buy the business. And the second year that you come up for renewal, they will hammer you with an increased premium. So thank you for putting that proviso in the contract with them. That was, that was very apt. Thank you.
Councillor Barton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for that presentation, Jody. It was very thorough. Just one quick question. This policy is also going to trickle down to the partners that we have, like, you know, the building, the insurance on the Memorial Center, the Highwood Center, I guess, all that kind of stuff that trickles down to them, right? Okay.
Yes, it would. The property insurance portion would be shifting. However, the operating group or society would still maintain their director and liability and contents insurance on their own.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question then with regards to the cyber insurance. What is the expected outcome from what's been presented here? What are you hoping to achieve through what you've outlined?
That is a fantastic question. Thank you, Councillor Smith. The cyber policy that is included in RMA is it's very hard to compare apples to apples when you're looking at any insurance policy. So for right now, we're recommending staying with the add-on policy for 2025, which will allow us enough time to do a thorough comparison of the two policies. And then for 2026, we will be able to make the recommendation whether we stick with our 2 million additional coverage or move to the 1 million cyber coverage that would be included at no additional premium. The current policy that we are proposing to stick with for 2025 for cyber insurance is at a cost of $24,475 for the year.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that Council approve the award of risk management insurance services to rural municipalities of Alberta, the management organization of the Genesis Reciprocal Insurance Exchange starting January 1st, 2025 for a minimum of 4 years with 2025 insurance premiums expected to be $590,238 for the town's insurance needs, including commercial, general liability, property, automobile, and equipment, and that Council approve filing a broker of record letter to transfer management of the town's existing cyber insurance policy at a premium of $24,475 to RMA for 2025 and direct administration to complete a detailed review of the town's cyber insurance needs before the 2026 renewal.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Jody. Well done. Item 4.5, Schlane with the securities policy amendments.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm here regarding the proposed updates to the Development and Subdivision Security Policy. The Development and Securities Policy was last revised on July 10th, 2015. In the fall of 2023, Dream Development made a request before Council for the town to consider surety bonds and a tiering system. Council directed administration to begin a review of this request from Dream. There were quite a few items that were reviewed as part of this research. The review and the research is now complete, and administration recommends surety bonds as a permanent method of payment moving forward, and also recommends reducing the security amounts for developers and for developments and subdivisions as proposed in the revised policy. These changes support our developers by offering surety bonds to free up cash flows for our developers and to also reduce securities to align with our other communities. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Councillor Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to confirm that the surety bonds, the reducing the security amounts was from 150% to 100%. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And for the meeting minutes, can we attach your committee of the whole presentation?
I believe so.
To the minutes?
Yes.
Just so that everybody knows exactly what's entailed. But the biggest one is the use of bonds and then reducing the securities from 150 to 100%. So, like I said in the committee of the whole meeting, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem.
Finally,
my pleasure.
Shalane. It's excellent. So, I will ask for a motion from Councillor Schmidt that administration recommends changes to the subdivision development securities policy with changes to accept surety bonds and lower the security amounts collected. And ask for a motion that Council adopt the amended subdivision and development policy number 098.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Good. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Lane.
Thank you.
Okay. For the promised delegation response from the delegation from the petitioning group that we had on October 28th, I want to take probably a significant amount of time to provide some clarification for our whole community on where this Aquatics expansion project actually is. So there's not only the petitioners that are concerned with the Aquatics expansion, but because of the delegation, there are also people that are in favor of the project that are now concerned. So it needs to be addressed, and as I promised, I will respond to it. So I'm going to take you back a little ways, back to the previous council of 2017 to 2021. That's kind of where this all started, and there's a lot of people that have not been following this project along for the last 8 years like some of us have. So we'll rewind things a little bit. So the previous council, 2017 to 2021, made the decision that to provide an improved aquatics facility in High River, that expansion at the Bob Snodgrass Recreation Complex is the most cost-effective and responsible way to get this accomplished. This was decided following a very lengthy study by Gibbs Gage, and that's it. It's not just hearsay or anything. This was a 2018 study that looked at all of our recreation facilities, as well as what expanding our aquatics facility would look like. And it outlined all of our options between a new rec center, a new standalone aquatics only facility, and the expansion of the existing facility. Now, rather than the previous council making the final decision at that time, and just before an election that was going to have at least 4 new council members, previous council decided to put the question of the borrowing amount to a non-binding referendum during the election. The main reason for not having it as a binding referendum was done as to not handcuff the future council members into a decision that they were not fully versed on. This was done in an attempt to provide council with a temperature gauge for support of the project. And I'll give you the actual results because I saw on Facebook there is numbers all over the map as to what people are saying the actual results of that referendum were. So the actual referendum, which the question was, do you wish to borrow up to $15 million for the pool expansion? 54% said no, and 46% said yes. This was a difference of only 346 people. So following the 2021 election, the 4 new councillors and 3 incumbents discussed the options available for improving our aquatics facilities. With a non-binding referendum, the 54-46 split was not felt as enough of a definitive result, with only 346 people moving the needle to no. It was unanimously decided then to move forward with the expansion of the existing aquatics facility at the BSRC. So where we are today and the current issues facing the project that is under construction. Obviously, with the borrowing bylaw that we had done first reading on, it came to our attention by Maureen Moncrief at a regular meeting of council that section 254 in the MGA and portion of the borrowing bylaw that states you cannot start construction prior to having an approved borrowing bylaw in place, that we had made a mistake by council and administration, of which we then sent a letter immediately to Municipal Affairs advising them of the non-compliance. Sorry. So from there, then of course the petition was launched to stop the aquatics expansion borrowing bylaw 4633-2024. Through that petition, we were presented with a stack of signatures, of which 1,697 people supported the petition to stop the borrowing bylaw. And that was presented to us at the October 28th meeting. At that same meeting, because of the miss in the section 254 and because of the petition, at the last council meeting, council voted not to proceed with second reading at that meeting, which automatically killed the borrowing bylaw 4633-2024. That was done on October 28th. On November 1st, we actually received a response from Municipal Affairs and Minister Rick McIver on November 1st. And I'll read that letter to you. Dear Mayor Snodgrass, thank you for your letter of October 3rd, 2024 regarding the Town of High River's non-compliance with Section 254 of the MGA. I appreciate you bringing this matter to my attention. I expect municipalities to follow the borrowing provisions of the MGA that pertain to capital projects such as the aquatics expansion. These requirements are important to ensure public transparency. I advise consulting with your legal counsel to identify and mitigate any risks as you proceed with the next steps. Thank you for your efforts to rectify the situation and for outlining the measures you intend to take to address the gap. I appreciate your transparency in keeping me informed on this matter. So, with council defeating the borrowing bylaw, I want to make it clear to the public that no money will be borrowed to complete the aquatics expansion. As well, there will also not be any tax increases needed for the completion of this project. So as we went through the petition and over not just the petition, but over the last number of months, we heard a lot of different opinions on the project. Some people are absolutely in favor of it and they want it and they think it's a good move for High River, but there's also some that are just blatantly against the entire project in its entirety. Some are for the project, but they just don't want us to borrow money for the project. and I'll go into that a little later. Some are against the project because of the change room designs, and I'll go into that a little later. And some people want a larger, better, brand-new facility located somewhere else in High River. Now, I want to be clear that if we're going down that road, which I am not in favor of whatsoever in a town of 15,000 people, but you are at a bare minimum of $100 million to replace the existing facility. So the concerns that we heard back with the petition is that the 30-year amortization is too long. Couldn't agree with you more. It's a long time, and the reason why 30 years was proposed was simply because to keep the monthly yearly tax increase as low as we possibly could. 30-year amortization, the interest is too much. Tax increase to the project, some people just not interested in any kind of tax increase for it. And of course, missing Section 254 with the borrowing process was a concern. And then they're also asking that council seek out fundraising and grant opportunities, basically, as one person put it, find somebody else to pay for it. Give me a section. So, I want to be clear that of this project, 44% of this entire project is paid for through provincial grants. Fundraising, yes, we can absolutely do fundraising. But fundraising of these types of facilities does not get the capital construction costs of these facilities taken care of. As we experienced with the field house, which I was involved in the fundraising aspects of it at the time, the fundraising efforts simply provide funds for additional amenities. And if you look at the field house, after we did the big fundraising evening that night, and months leading up to it, that's how the big divider wall that splits the field house in half, that's where those monies came from. That's the kind of money that fundraising efforts provide. They do not provide millions and millions of dollars to build these facilities. It's also mentioned to me, find private equity. Well, it doesn't exist. I'm sorry. There's not somebody out there that's just got millions and millions of dollars, and if they do, then they're welcome to come and put it towards this project, but you can't just go out and get it. Naming rights to these facilities. Some people think that the Cargill Fieldhouse was built by Cargill. It absolutely was not. That project required borrowed funds that this town borrowed in the tune of $8.5 million at the time to build that facility. Cargill did not provide capital cost money to that. Cargill provides us currently with $35,000 per year simply for the naming rights to have their advertising on the facility. So where we are today, in the Aquatics facility expansion and the law, let me rewind. I want to be very clear that the Aquatics facility expansion and the lobby and small ice Zamboni access renovations will be completed. And to clarify, some of the comments shared by the petitioning group delegation from Carol McMillan, Maureen Moncrief, Iris Prieb, and Vicky McGonigal regarding our proposed funding sources of reserves and MSI grants and LGFF grants, I want to provide clarity to the community on how those work. So under the use of reserves, we had our municipal law firm of Field Law, who is the law firm that represents many municipalities. we had them provide us clarity on the use of reserves. And I will read, it's a 3-page opinion letter that I'm not going to act because it cites just a ton of what's actually in the MGA that formulates their response. But the number one point, the Municipal Government Act of Alberta does not specify any requirements or restrictions related to accumulating or managing reserves. Basically, municipal councils may set aside whatever proportion of revenues they choose as reserves for whatever purpose they see fit. Municipalities will often pass a council policy establishing what types of reserves may be established, their creation, funding and withdrawals to occur, and if and how reserve funds can be redesignated and other related administrative processes. So to be clear, the use of reserves is 100% under the discretion and direction of the elected council of the day. Council creates these reserves, and I'll remind you that back in 2013, after the flood, Town of High River had $0 in reserves. So council, since then, council has created and established reserves, and council uses the reserves. And yes, this does include the reserve called tax stabilization. The only reserve we cannot use at our discretion is the off-site levy reserve, which has its own legislation. And these funds are monitored by the Government of Alberta through the MGA. The next portion is the use of grants. So we have two sets of grants that we can access, being MSI and LGFF. They are the exact same thing. They switched the names and added a little bit of, I don't know, I guess eligibility pieces to it. They didn't remove. So we were told by the delegation that we couldn't use these funds, that swimming pools don't fit in, which is absolutely false. And in the MSI Capital Program Guidelines, Schedule 3, the list of eligible capital projects includes item 3.Q. Of the eligible capital projects, which includes recreation and sports facilities, including baseball diamonds, swimming pools, ski areas, campground facilities, playgrounds and equipment, permanent park facilities, wharves, docks, piers, and trail systems. LGFF, which is the new name of the MSI, in the LGFF Capital Program Guidelines, Appendix 1, eligible capital projects. Item 1.P, eligible projects include recreation sports facilities, including baseball diamonds, swimming pools, ski areas, campground facilities, playgrounds and equipment, permanent park facilities, wharves, docks, piers and trail systems, and ice resurfacers, or a Zamboni. In order to complete the project, we are proposing to use provincial grant funds as well as a portion of our reserves. This in no way depletes our reserve funds, and as we have an existing reserve funding allocation in our yearly budgets, these reserves will be replenished over time with existing taxation funding. So, the proposed plan to complete the project, and this will be finalized during the 2025 budget approvals. The total grant amounts between MSI and LGFF is $11,799,774. Reserve amounts to be used will be $14,994,148 with a total project allocation of $26,793,922. Again, there will be no additional tax increases allocated to this project. The project is being managed by WSP Engineering, a Canadian company and one of the world's leading engineering and professional services firms with over 73,000 employees around the world. The project contractor, construction contractor, is Shandos Construction, which is a large construction contractor who has built many aquatics facilities in Western Canada, including the Booney Dune Leisure Centre in Edmonton, the Canada Games Aquatic Centre in Kamloops, and the Maple Ridge Leisure Centre in Maple Ridge, BC. So now I want to get, so that clarifies the project itself. But I also want to get into a little bit of some of the allegations that were brought forward during Iris Preeb's comments during the delegation in regards to our financial reporting. Now, we are audited on a yearly basis, and we have never had any concerns regarding our financial procedures or reporting to the Alberta government. We have confirmed with BDO Canada, who does our yearly auditing, and they have confirmed that the town of High River is fully compliant with all legislation that we are beholden to with the government of Alberta. Our capital plans are a snapshot of a moment in time that reflect the wishes of the sitting council. These plans change constantly that provide a guess as to what the future infrastructure needs look like. Our capital budgets and capital plans are completed yearly and are located on our website. However, there's no question that we can do a much better job of making them easier to find and access, because when I went back, I had trouble finding it. But that's an easy fix. And there's not just that one that needs to be fixed up. Now, regarding Iris's comment that we have not reviewed or updated capital plans, this statement is absolutely false. This was an assumption made. Our capital plans are a direct component and part of our capital budgets that we approve on a yearly basis. Now, we used to do, a number of years ago, I can't remember, Carol, if it was when you were on council, that we started doing a 10-year capital plan, but it became quickly apparent that it was so hard to try to predict what's going out 10 years into the future, and it was way too difficult to try and predict 10 years out. So then we brought it back to the legislated 5-year plan. Another big concern that was brought forward was infrastructure concerns. And I want to be clear that the construction of the pool expansion does not affect any current critical infrastructure project. And to remind you, and not remind you, but a lot of people don't know, that we replaced 100 years of infrastructure in this town after the flood. The flood provided us an opportunity that has brought us into a very fortunate position in the town of High River. So when I say 100 years, that means 100 years of a normal community without Canada's largest natural disaster at the time, just your normal course of business as to how long it takes to replace infrastructure. We did that in the span of 4 years. 100 years of infrastructure improvements after the flood done in 4 to 5 years. Now, roads, everybody will always complain about roads. There's potholes, there's roads that need to be rebuilt, there's roads that need to be replaced. That is normal. You are never going to have all your roads in perfect condition in any community. They are the most worn out and well-used pieces of the infrastructure that we have. Another piece that was mentioned, that we are postponing the project on Center Street, which goes from 7th Ave all the way to 12th Ave. And to make it clear, this was only a beautification project. This was to complete the streetscape design that we had done that goes from the river, from Center Street Bridge, south down to 7th Avenue that everybody knows about. This was only to complete the last few blocks from 7th Ave to 12th Ave. The infrastructure in that area is all in perfectly good condition. This was to take the overhead power lines that are still there. It was to get them back and buried into the alley, into the CPR right away, and continue on with the streetscape design. And this is simply a change in strategy and a change in priority with this council. Does not mean it will not happen. It's just being postponed because I truly believe it absolutely has to happen just to finish that off. So just a few reminders on that. Actually, I don't need to go through the list of infrastructure since 2013. It's too bloody long. I can later if needed. So why the expansion and why this why the aquatics expansion is important? And I'll allow councillors, of course, when I'm done here, if they want to share their thoughts on why they think it's important, but I'll share mine. And the number one piece is our councils, the last three councils I've sat on, have all gone through as to, why do we do this? What do we do and how do we do it? And our number one why we do this is making a positive difference now and for generations to come. And we invest today for the well-being of our community's future, the exact same way our existing amenities in High River came to be, and as our predecessors look to the future the same way we are today. Other pieces that make this important, one of the biggest responses we get from any community feedback survey is, what are you doing to attract young families? Well, we're approving the amenities we have and to create amenities families are looking for. Another piece that's part of my personal story with Aquatics is having to leave town to access better aquatics facilities with young children. And my family, especially my wife and the kids, because I'm working, are often going to Okotoks, Calgary, Vulcan, all these updated aquatics facilities that have zero entry, beach style and water slides, and this one, ours will provide us a new hot tub, etc. But leaving town to access better aquatics facilities, having that in our community creates a huge draw in our area because this will be the only facility of its kind south of Calgary to this extent. And I can tell you straight up that when we go to a pool in another community, we always spend additional monies in that community. We always bring investment to those communities. Another piece that was mentioned to me by one of our councillors, it's an excellent meeting place for families, young and old, with birthday parties, family gatherings, low-cost activities for our current residents in keeping with generations to come. And a piece that I read on one of Shandos's case studies for one of the, I think it was the Kamloops facility that they built. And the comment was made, while current designs champion the requirement to create barrier-free facilities that promote inclusion, some of the innovative layouts of the past did not always take into account the need for increased fresh air ventilation, exhaust, and environmental barriers around items that help to prevent humidity and the byproducts of chlorine from impacting the building envelope. So this is a big part of the updated renovation, not only to the new facility, but to the existing facility as well. So this all takes us to rewinding this, and as a community, with the feedback that we've got, to look at what we've actually learned through this whole process. And I want to speak to the ever-famous referendum of 2021. And my advice to any future council is do not do this during an election. These items and these referendums need to be their standalone issue, focusing on that issue. And the second piece is two questions should have been asked. One being, do you wish to expand the existing aquatics facility, providing information and data? And the second question, do you wish to borrow funds in order to complete that project? And they're two separate questions, as we saw. Now, regarding borrowing bylaw rules, we now have absolute full clarity that it doesn't seem like the town has had for quite some time. And the process is now set up properly for both the town and the public, and knowing how all the rules and the processes are to be held to. Another big learning, as I mentioned before, is the ease of access to current budget information for clarity to the public. The information is there, we simply need to make it much easier to find. And website changes will be made. So please email us if there is information that you cannot access or find on our website. And we absolutely rely on your feedback to improve this. So the last piece that I want to talk about is a much more difficult conversation, but it's extremely important conversation that our community has during these times. And that is my concerns regarding the petition that was put out. I have concern. This isn't just this petition, it's pretty much any petition. I don't sign petitions, I don't get them, and I don't often trust them. But my concern is how petitions are presented and what information is provided to the signator. And you have to understand, with any petition, the petitioners have one goal, and that is to get you to sign their petition. The document that was provided to the petitioners, titled Petition Witness Checklist and Speaking Points, was provided by petition leader Carol McMillan, which outlined 4 points to the petitioners. A $14 million borrow over 30 years, and that this is not about whether you are in favor of the pool expansion or not. It's specifically regarding the borrowing bylaw. It spoke about future borrowing capacity and concerns for future major infrastructure. It talked about wants versus needs. And it talked about a 30-year tax burden that would be placed on our community. The issue that I have with how this information was provided in these speaking points is that I provided information to Bonnie Murray, who was part of the petitioning group, back on August 16th, long before the petition started, which outlined the amounts of grant funding, the amounts of borrowed funds, which also included the monthly payment amount of $12.33 per parcel at $148 per year, the interest rate of 5.26%, and the amortization of 30 years, which again was simply chosen. I didn't like 30 years it's a long time, trust me. But it was chosen to simply keep the monthly tax impact as low as possible. It also outlined the number of taxable properties in High River at 6,300. The group chose only to use the 30-year amortization as part of their speaking points. When the petition started, all of us on council and the town administration was getting phone calls, I got phone calls, councillors got phone calls, and we started hearing these stories that there would be a tax increase with numbers ranging anywhere from $500 per parcel per year to the one that I got at my son's hockey practice at the rec center, that this individual told me it was going to be $6,000 per year for the next 30 years. Now, a little bit of critical thinking. Let's go with $3,000 per year at 6,300 properties is $18,900,000 per year that would generate. Over 30 years, that is $567 million generated to pay for a $14 million loan. And it's because of these numbers that we were getting put in front of us is why I put out my Facebook post at that time advising people of the actual numbers. We then had people upset that they signed the petition. But once you sign it, you're in. And it doesn't change anything. If you choose to sign a petition without the proper information, that is absolutely your choice. So to the public, I just want to say, you can sign petitions all you want. But what I'd suggest is that when petitions come to the door, that you ask questions and ask where the evidence is that supports their position. You do not have to sign it right there, and you can do your investigation. You can absolutely sign it later if you wish. And I want to make clear that the group that put the petition together does not have full control of what is said by all petitioners at every door. So, leave that there. Now, I want to also address, at the end of the meeting, Vicki McGonigal and her wrap-up and the petitioner's requests. So I'll go through that. The number one request was vote to defeat the bylaw. That was done. Look at and consider the deficits raised by Iris. That was done. She's spoke about section 249.1, the civil liability of councillors, and giving us a warning ahead of time. Now, the misinformation piece was this comment about a wave pool. I talked to all councillors. None of us have ever mentioned to anybody that this would ever be a wave pool. A wave pool is a completely different facility than what we are building. Public hearing and open houses. This has already been done. And we had open houses when this first started a long, long time ago, back to the previous council. We've had numerous public comment sections at these council meetings. We've had delegations from Lisa Zabon regarding the change rooms. And after that delegation, we even put Lisa on the Aquatics facility expansion task force that included public members as well as council and the architect consultants. And we even had one full open house regarding specifically the change room design at the field house, which had, I don't know how many people came to it, but it was a busy evening, and we had great discussions with that, and changes were made to those designs because of the conversations that were had at that open house. Funding sources, I've already gone through that. Community involvement, I think I just talked about that. The Aquatics Facility Task Force, that was a big one. As far as being open to the public, regardless of whether it's here or whether we're at Coffee with Council, I think there's a farmer's market booth that had all these plans there. And obviously, Maureen, Carol, Laura, Risa, everybody has given numerous public comments during our regular council meetings. Petitioners requesting that a stop work order be placed on the facility. This will not take place. We are finishing the facility. Funding and planning is sorted out and will be finalized during budget. Change rooms, public engagement, that has already been done. Contracts in place with the lawyers or with the contractors, yes, that's And we're not putting a stop work order on. We don't need to consult with lawyers on any of that at all. Transparency on the project. This is absolutely no problem at all to have taken place. And we've made it clear to Chris that Chris will provide an update to council at the first committee of the whole meeting every month as to where the project's at, where the cost to date, and the project progress. Council core responsibilities that was mentioned. And Vicki, you mentioned that recreation is not a responsibility of council. That is completely false. Recreation facilities are 100% the responsibility of the sitting council, which is why it is in all that grant funding that we are responsible to use. Needs versus wants. Well, that can be argued all day as to what level a needs and wants go to. So Maureen, to address your concern with where the public comment section, yes, we are adjusting our minutes and our meetings because we feel that the priority with regular council meeting minutes is to absolutely take care of the business that's in front of us and the decisions that have to be made. So when I first started, there were no public comment sections. We put in a public comment section at the end of our meetings, and I can't remember where it was that we added 2. So you could say something before, and they're intended to provide comment directly on agenda items. And that has started to not take place. So we will allow public comments, but they will take place at the end of the meeting after we've done the business of the day. And if any, I'm not done yet, Maureen, thanks. We didn't interrupt you. I expect that you don't interrupt myself, please. If a public comment at any time turns into a long list of questions, you will be asked to return to a future council meeting as a delegation. As well, change that will be made is all delegations are required to submit their materials prior to the meeting so that it can be added to the agenda. This is to allow council time to gather information in order to answer questions within the delegation. This is not what happened at the last delegation. None of Iris's comments were provided to us, or yours, Vicki, were provided to us prior to the meeting. It was to be a petition delegation, and it went on for an hour and 20 minutes, whatever it was, which is just fine. I don't really care, but we can't do that every meeting. So if a delegation does not have if a delegation goes off from what was submitted, the delegation will end and they will be asked to come back at a future council meeting should they wish to do so. That pretty much finishes my update on the project. I will open it up to other council members should they wish to provide further comment. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to everybody for your input. You know, we as a community get stronger, I think, when we have opportunities in front of us to face challenges and to work together collaboratively. So I would like to say thank you to our mayor and to this council for the direction that we've chosen, because it was deliberately done with the intention of improving our community. If you look at the last 10 years, we have been focused on rebuilding our infrastructure, rebuilding this community from a very devastating event to the detriment of our recreation. And we are now in a fortunate position to be able to do some good and build us forward for the next generation of children and families to come here and be part of this. And if we look at our task force, our recent town plan task force, we took a good hard look at where we want this community to go for the next 20, 25 years. And as a people-first community, the newly adopted plan speaks to vibrancy, accessibility, and community, responsible growth management, and this pool expansion is not the all bells and whistles program that we would love to have, but it is thoughtfully designed to offer new features that will see us down the road. So I hope that we can go forward now, and we're doing this with the best resources that we have and with the best advice that we can get to take us forward. So thank you very much.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass, and thank you for all that information, bringing it forward. Some of what I might have to say might reiterate some of that. It was interesting to me as we went forward with this, how people see the situation differently. And in talking to people, it's great to see different sides, to share different aspects, to understand what's important and not important to people. So I did really try to engage in conversation with a lot of people, which helped me to come to my decision. But with the petition and accusations and misinformation that went out, it has given me a great deal of time to sort of reflect on why I sit here and why I made the decision to move forward with upgrades to the Bob Snodgrass Rec Center. And in that reflection, I'm happy to say that I haven't changed my decision, that I, in fact, agree with the going forward of the pool and the rec center expansion. When I broke it down into sort of my reasonings, it gave me a lot of time to think about why are these things important. And so I just wanted to share them with you because even though they might be reiterated by some of the things other councillors say, it is really important to me for people to understand why I do make decisions the way I do make them, or how I make them, or that I make them and that I can stand behind them. So community needs. So expanding the pool addresses the demand for upgraded recreation and swimming facility in High River, serving everyone from young children learning to swim to experienced patrons seeking exercise. It attracts families. An upgraded facility is a draw for families considering to move to High River. And if you ask people why they moved here, and very few people say it's because I have great drinking water or a flushing toilet. Those are expected. People move here to our town because of things that we produce, and we have. We have parks, we have a hospital, we have a library. So a pool and the BSRC is a very important part of that. The current facility upgrades. Renovating the existing pool allows for essential upgrades and maintenance without high costs of a new facility. And believe me, when I started, I was 100% for we need a new facility. So this makes it a practical choice. While a brand new rec facility would be ideal, we must be mindful of the financial capacity of a small town. And not only the cost to build a $100 million new rec facility, we would also have to operate it. And that in itself is a huge cost. So as a small town of 15,000 people, one, we don't even have the borrowing capacity, nor could we ever pay for that facility and the operating of it. So financial feasibility, expanding rather than building new, respects the town's budget limitations, which I just talked about, while meeting community needs, reflecting a responsible balance between wants and needs. A new facility is definitely a want. Upgrades and expansion is something that our town needs. So the health and well-being. Recreational facilities like an upgraded pool offer tremendous value for residents, physical and mental health. Recreation promotes balance, healthy lifestyle, and leading to a more fulfilling and longer life. And I know you would all agree to that, how important it is, and having it available to everybody in our community at a reasonable cost is very important. Social benefits. Improving gathering space creates a welcoming environment for social interactions and community bonding, enriching the lives of residents of all ages. So the space is not just to go play hockey or to go swimming or to use a field house. I would spend hours there with my children. And in that, I wasn't playing hockey, I wasn't swimming, and I wasn't playing lacrosse. I was sitting with their parents and other people and people in the community. So having a space available to do that is and was really important to me. So that's really a big thing. We talk about birthday parties there, allowing people to use it as a safe space. The Friday nights that the teens go there and hang out. That is really, really important for all of us in this community. And inclusivity. An expanded and modernized facility can better serve people of all ages and abilities, fostering inclusivity within High River. So this has definitely been a learning experience that I hope that I can take with me as I continue to make decisions for the betterment of High River. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you. So when we were asked to share our opinions, our feelings about the importance of this aquatic expansion to our community, understanding that each of us comes to this from a slightly different approach, a different lens, maybe even a different age group or demographic. I didn't take my children to the pool here. As a matter of fact, I took them to the pool in Maple Ridge. It was a lovely facility. But not for long, because every time I took them, they got sick. It wasn't an option. We did other things. With that being said, my opinion, the importance to our community, it's immeasurable. It really is. Recreation and its role in health and wellness are an integral part of our overall well-being. In my past experience as a seniors recreation program director with the YMCA of Canada, our goal was to create a community place for people of all background, ages, and race to build connections that support each other, much like what Councillor Jones just referred to. The newly improved aquatic facility can provide current and future residents with years of recreational activities. However, effective management and maintenance are critical to its success. I do still have concerns around the total cost of the expansion, but not just that. The long-term costs, again, we need to be very, very mindful of. Operating it efficiently, maintaining it, those are so very important. The cost to build it is nothing. If it's going to last us for 30 years, if we can't afford to take care of it or we don't put that into our organizational structure, this conversation doesn't matter, in my opinion. So building the facility, but maintaining it and taking care of it for years to come, that's my concern over costs, because we are only 15,000 people. By the time this expansion is in place, our operational costs will have more than doubled. That concerns me. As a nearing senior, single, it will impact my income, my life, not just this expansion, everywhere. Condo fees go up, gas price goes up, all the way around. So I have shared my concerns with all of council. We are encouraged to speak our true opinion. Sometimes it varies from our peers, and it's difficult to speak against the majority of the people I work with. However, note that my opinion and my concerns are that, and everybody else here, we all have our own. I believe the project can provide huge benefit, but not at all costs. We need to manage it effectively. That's my stand.
Thanks, Brenda. No other speakers on the list, so I think we've exhausted that. But I want to be clear that, you know, in High River, and you know, recreation is extremely important because health and wellness in this town is one of our top pillars. Regardless of whether we're supporting doctors and doctor recruitment, and or whether we're supporting our recreation amenities, you know, right from our curling facility, our basketball facilities, that, you know, the new outdoor one that was just built at the old putt, I guess it was, the hockey, our tennis courts, pickleball, swimming pool, volleyball, lacrosse. We do everything we can to support them, and yes, Brenda's absolutely right. It's not just about building these facilities, but recreation is expensive to operate, but it's critical that they exist in your community. They're an absolute must-have in a town of this size and to be who we are. So we've talked a lot about it. There's the response to the delegation, and we'll move forward from here. So next item on the agenda is item number 6, the board and committee reports. I don't know if any councillors have them. Councillor Walsh.
Thanks. Just in case you haven't heard enough from me yet, I would like to ask for a follow-up on the ground study information. We had talked about the many times each of us is approached about the ground that our aquatic expansion is being built on. During a recent conversation, I had spoken with Director Riley and asked if he was able to put the document into layman's terms so that the general public can see and understand that we've done the right testing and we've explored all of the things so that you know that the investment we're about to make, every pun intended, is on solid ground. Sorry. So, no?
Can we make it public? We have a geotechnical report. I don't see why not.
Thank you. That was my understanding of the conversation that we had during our, I believe it was a committee of the whole meeting. I'll look forward to that.
Oh, now that you brought it up, this whole old conversation of it's built on a swamp. You know, that facility's been there for 45 years. It's not sinking. It hasn't sunk. It's not going anywhere. It's built on solid ground. Any of the maintenance that we've done on the facility, whether it be the curling ice, the small ice, the large ice, and the swimming pool monies that we put in there, is directly because we had numerous years of neglect on maintenance of that facility, which was what resulted in us having to put an investment into the lane pool years ago. It's the exact reason why the curling ice needed to be replaced and the small ice. Well, the small ice didn't need to be, but because they're tied together and how they're chilled, it had to be replaced as well. And it's the large ice surface is the original ice surface as well. So the brine lines and stuff, they wear out over time. We were getting leaking. It was harder and harder to, especially the curling guy. Kevin, Tim, you guys know exactly what the problem was with back in the curling ice and trying to keep the couple of those sheets level and just to be able to keep water in them so that it would even freeze. So all these investments have been made, and we have an absolute amazing facility. For a town of 15,000 people, we are damn lucky to have this. I have other people that come to this town that are blown away by what we have in a town of our size, and they wish they had it in theirs. But so I just want to put my 2 cents in on the whole swamp argument, because you can walk over there yourself. You don't need an engineer with you or anything. You need to walk over there. It's still there. It hasn't sunk. So, moving on. Any other board committee reports? Seen on here none. Board and committee meeting minutes. Shepherd Family Park Society meeting minutes are attached. Public comments. Jody, you've got a piece from Lee regarding the tree.
Yes, we received an update from Lee Peckham, who was taking a lead on the tree carving project in George Lane Park. And I believe our wonderful IT team can show us some pictures. It is nearly complete. Jared Tailfeathers has completed the carving, and he is adding color to the carving now. I understand there are 2 more colors to be painted, but it is looking fantastic. So we just wanted to share that with council and the public. So we will attach these pictures to the minutes for today's meeting.
Thanks for that update, Jody. Lots of us were curious as to how, as I'm not an artist, I have no idea how the process works. So as you're physically able to watch somebody working on something, you're always scratching your head and wondering how this is going to come to be. But obviously the pictures tell the story, and it's amazing. Jared did a fantastic job of that. So public comments. Maureen, if you have a comment or a question, or Bonnie, but if it's something that you guys need to come back as a delegation, please do so. But if it's just a quick comment or question, more than welcome to. I'll have you come up, Bonnie, just so that we can. Yeah, the middle mic will be on for you.
Okay. My question just goes back to something you said when you were talking, Craig. We're using the reserves, and you said the reserves would be built back up again. And I'd sort of like to know if that's going to be shown in the budget as to how much you're going to build it up per year, how that's going to affect our taxes.
Yeah, it's in every year's budget what the reserve allocation is.
Yeah, but we're using up over the next year. We're going to use up a substantial portion of what we have in reserves.
Not
So is that-
substantial, not substantial, a portion of, it's $14 million. But
Yeah.
it's not, doesn't exhaust. Tax stabilization is about the only one that we're going to exhaust, but yeah, it'll all be shown in the budget. Yeah.
Okay, that's what my question is.
Yep.
Going forward, that will be shown in the budget as to what, then how we are going to replenish those reserves yearly, or how many years to take to replenish them.
Well, like, let's go back to 2013 when we had zero, and we did tax increases specifically designed to start to build up reserves.
I've
because
seen them every
yeah, you
year.
were part of that, right? So, you know, the council of the day has the decision. Some councils, some communities do not think reserves are important whatsoever, and they'll just borrow whenever they want to do things.
Not my question.
It's a dangerous road to go down, but
My question is, that's the plan.
That's
is
the
that
plan,
you will
yes.
put them into the budget as to how we're going to keep
Yep.
building those reserves. I feel those
Correct.
are important.
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
and it will be reflected in the budget. David has already been directed to have a full portion dedicated to how this pool expansion is going to go.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie.
So I would
Sorry, Maureen, Councillor Nychuk?
Sorry, didn't want to interrupt, Maureen, but to that point, you can go back to past budgets already and see that pathway of how we've been accumulating reserves. So that will still exist, and we can explain that again. But if you go back into previous budgets, you'll see how that reserve has been established and been built over the last number of years. So the roadmap is there. We're just going to continue to follow it. It's not like next year we're going to, well, I guess we could next year. We'll still be council till October, but we're not going to implement a new taxation to recover reserves. That reserve building exists already, so.
I realize that, but you're using up, but if you're using up a portion.
Sure.
So I wanted to know how it's going to be used.
Yeah,
You're taking-
same process, but we don't have a ceiling to reserves. If, you know, we haven't set a, this is what we want this reserve to be every year. We just know what's important, as I think everybody does that runs a household, that you have some savings you put aside for this or that, or you borrow for this or that. It's the same balance that we try to achieve, so.
Yes, and I looked at the reserves over the past year, so I kind of know, and it was always kind of in my mind, if this pool was coming, how come there was only 2 years that there was reserve put into the recreation reserve. And when I saw that, I thought that since this pool had been in the works for 8 years, that there would have been more saved towards that project already. And so that kind of was what piqued my interest from the very beginning.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I don't think up until a couple of years ago is really where we solidified that we were going to go ahead with the pool project. We spent a lot of years trying to decide on this. So in that very... We started to talk about it a long time ago. We didn't implement a source of funding for it a long time ago because we didn't decide that that's what we were going to do.
Okay, go ahead, Maureen.
So I want to get this straight. So if we want to speak at a public comment, we have to submit our comments beforehand.
If you have a list, if you have a comment or a question, more than welcome to do it during public comments. If you have a list, like what's been happening, then you will be asked to come as a delegation. That way you can submit your material to us, because what's happening, Maureen, is that you're coming with all this list of concerns, everything else. We have no way to respond at that time because it's the first we've seen it. When you just come and blip, and then it takes us 2 weeks to go through and then blah. So what we're going to do is you can come back as a delegation where you submit your questions and comments, and then we can answer them right there and then. That's just the way it's going to be. It's not, it's the way council has decided to proceed with their meetings.
On your regular council meeting for today, 4.5 was missed off the agenda.
We amended the agenda to add it.
Pardon me?
We amended the agenda at the start of the meeting to add 4.5.
Okay, but you didn't tell us what it was about.
I think I did. Security. Ken's nodding his head. Yes, it was.
Security bonds, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, do you follow Robert's rules?
Somewhat. Not letter. The Robert's rules is a guide. What we do, it's a guide, Vicki. It's a guide. It's not the law. And we have our procedure bylaw. Thank you very much. That's how we operate. And we consult with, what's the guy's name? Starts with an E. Ellie Mina, who is a parliamentarian consultant on how to proceed with meetings. And council has met with him numerous times, and we discuss how, and it's a lot of our procedure bylaws based on his advice as to how, and that, you know, he's, like he says, Robert's rules is a guide.
So how can you have public comments at the end when we see the agenda and you're going to pass something? Why can't the public have our say?
Because that's not what's happening, Maureen.
No, I'm just
That's
asking.
not what's happening, and that's why we've adjusted the procedure.
Well,
because you're not commenting on what's in the agenda. So we will do it at the end of the meeting after we've conducted our business. Now, remember, this prior to 2013, I don't know what you guys did, Jamie, but when I first came on board, there was no public comment section. None.
That's really odd because you have a policy here dated July 16th, 2018, and it's called community engagement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if everyone's read it, but it sounds like you have to engage with the community throughout processes. And I think the community needs to have their say when stuff is being passed.
Okay.
So that's my comments. I think you're stifling the public.
I couldn't disagree with you more, and we can go down that communication line
the public.
time and time again, Maureen, and you know, Anybody that has questions on anything that we do, I'll tell you, we get numerous emails. I get phone calls. I get Facebook messages. You know, you go through the legislative services. You have a voice. You can provide your comments. Like, it's not difficult to do for those that want to do it.
So why on the town website have you not got that the borrowing bylaw was defeated?
It hasn't been updated yet. That was part of my comments. Our website needs a lot of work.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can also add that until the minutes are adopted, which is what happened today, now those minutes will be posted. In advance of today, when the minutes were adopted, that is not considered a fully completed process yet. So after today, minutes have been adopted from October 28th, where that bylaw was defeated, and now that will be posted and everything will be updated. It's a timing issue, and it's just part of the process.
Thanks for clarifying that, Jody. So item number 9.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Vicki.
The question is, once you do the work on the website, will we be able to access the mandated 5-year capital plan that you annually review?
Yes, it's available today. It just needs to be easier to find. It's part of every year's capital budget.
That would be helpful.
Yep.
The other comment I have is, one of the problems we have in society today is people
Is which, sorry?
Pardon me?
I said, I just missed you when I was adjusting my microphone.
Okay, thank you. People don't seem to be able to disagree with each other in a friendly manner anymore, and I've never felt that personally more than I did today. Public engagement is something that the residents of this community should feel comfortable doing. A petition is one of those ways. It's not a way of attacking council. It's a way of communicating with council. And the tone of the remarks today are very disappointing to me as a citizen. I don't expect to participate in my community and then be called out at a public meeting in person by the mayor. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think we did that to you. And so, pardon me? No, we spoke to you as a council. We spoke to you, well, Iris had very specific identifiable items that she researched that she brought to your attention. And so that's my concern, is that we would like to see this council be more accepting of involvement and engagement by their community. The petition is not an attack. The petition is a, hey, we would like your attention. And your community should be able to communicate with you in any number of ways, including a petition, including coffee with council. And I'm going to tell you, I've been a mayor for 2 terms, and I have never spoken to my community in the way I was spoken to today, and I'm very disappointed. I would hope that this does not form a feature of the balance of this council's term, because I like community engagement. When I was mayor, I used to walk up and down the town business section every weekend in order to get that community engagement. And you have the luxury of a large council chamber, and take advantage of it. Listen to us. That's my comment.
Yep, I appreciate that. And everybody handles this their way when they're elected, and I'll handle it the way Craig has. This is the way I've operated from day one of being here, and having open and honest and often difficult conversations. I will never shy away from having difficult conversations, Vicki, ever, because it is 100% irresponsible in my mind
They can
to
be
do
difficult,
that. So,
Mr. Mayor, but they can be civil.
and just, I don't know how today wasn't civil. I wasn't yelling and screaming. You can, that's your feeling and your opinion. That's absolutely fine, Vicki. But there's, you know, some members of the public, because we go through this all the time, and, you know, this has been the biggest eye-opener and was the biggest difficulty I had when I first became mayor after the flood, was that wrapping my head around the fact that I'm not just Craig Snodgrass in the community anymore. I'm the mayor, and it changes instantly. It changes as soon as you're a councillor. It changes as soon as you're a mayor. That fast, as soon as you're elected. And but some people absolutely feel as though your members of council are stuck in some kind of political bubble and separated from society. Now, all of us, every single one of us is ingrained in this community, and I can assure you, Vicki, I am out and about on a daily basis with my business. I'm at weekly functions of funerals with 200, 300, 400 people, and I get asked constantly. Doesn't matter where I go, whether I'm grabbing apples at Sobeys, we are ingrained and engaged with this community. And we have absolutely heard you. We've heard the petition. We've heard the concerns. 100% we've heard you. There's no question. And just because I respond back, I don't think that's being disrespectful. I think it's being responsible that we have these kinds of conversations in our town.
Accept that.
We don't just show up from our caves every 2 weeks and pop up from behind the desk, and like that's not what happens. Like all of us, we're all engaged in different things. Like it's not just this. We have our businesses that we run. We're involved in the balloons. I'm a Cub Scout leader. You know, Kelly and her, go down the list. We're all involved in things in this community far outside of these council chambers. We're residents, we're business owners, and we're volunteers outside of this as well. So we are absolutely 100% engaged.
I understand that.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. However, I think in this council chambers, we should all treat each other with respect.
Thank you. Council correspondence requiring action. Donation request from Habitat for Humanity regarding lunch with the mayor as a donation. That's for a motion from Councillor Barton that administration works with Habitat for Humanity to set up a lunch with the mayor once the auction is complete.
You have my motion, Mayor?
All in favor? You can buy it, Kinghorn. Council's correspondence for information. Council correspondence from Foothills Country Hospice, and correspondence from Prairie Management and Realty. Maybe we'll talk to that one a little bit. Cody and Steve have been waiting the whole meeting to have their feedback from that letter regarding the speed in the alley at this facility. So Cody, Steve, whoever wants to respond and update council on where we're at with that. So.
Afternoon. So this has been, I guess, going on about a year now, and so we've got some concerns, obviously, with speed in the back alley. So the challenge is it's a paved back alley that runs in behind the apartment building and also a bunch of the townhouses and condos. And then it transitions into gravel further on down the alley. So we've done a bunch of speed intelligence in there. There is some speeds for sure. I would say our mean speed is about 24 kilometers an hour, which our alley speedways are 15. So is there some? Yes. The challenge comes is that we have done patrols in the area, put our speed spines up. Our sign was up there for, Steve, help me out, 2 months? 2 months in that back alley, which records data and also shows your speed. We tried that. We had the speed limit sign changed in the alley because it did say 20 kilometers an hour when the bylaw actually says 15. So that was rectified last spring. last fall, sorry. And so that's been now changed, so it's properly speed signed. We've done speed intelligence on it. We've had officers sit in the back alley, haven't wrote any tickets because they weren't able to find anybody when they were in there. So the challenge comes, I think, if there's still concerns, we're going to have to go down a different road of some sort of engineering controls. To sit an officer there for hours at a time is probably not the best use of our officers, resource at that time. So it's looking at things like speed bumps, speed humps. I don't know, what can be done from an engineering perspective, but that's kind of where we're at if these concerns still persist. I mean, again, putting officers there every single day probably isn't a good use of our resources, given, we have a whole community that we need to take care of rather than just one back alley. So this was brought forward to our IDP meeting, and there was lots of conversation about options, and I'm just not sure where that has gone right now, but that was a discussion in June or July at our interdepartmental meeting. So that's kind of what I know. Any questions on that?
Speed bumps, how hard are they to put in? Well, I know they're damn easy.
I think they're pretty easy.
Go ahead, Jenny.
We do have some temporary ones that were on High Country Drive.
Exactly. I know we have them.
Absolutely.
I know we took them out. So, I don't know, something to.
Yeah, I definitely think
put one or two back there and just see if it helps.
Yeah, and I think we can connect with Riley and his team and see what kind of options there are. I know there was some talk about blocking alleyways and things like that. I'm not sure that's the right idea of, putting barricades at one end, because it's now going to just force people to go around the other way and shortcut, and it pushes the problem elsewhere. So I think looking at permanent solutions is probably our best option.
Because if I read correctly in their letter, that was the only the only direct request that they had was to try speed bumps.
Yep.
So, let's do it.
Perfect.
All righty. Way to go, Riley. It'd be spring.
The winter ones always peel up with snow removal. So they're generally a summer only thing.
A summer only thing to try them out? All right. Brenda's shaking me off. They're already done, Ken. There are no speed bumps there. Okay, we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it and figure it out. All right. Okay. I think that exhausts the agenda. Berry management. Meeting adjourned 4:42.